Yesterday I got inspired and decided to try a new craft again. I wanted to try nalbinding or needle binding in English and neulaaminen or neulakinnastekniikka in Finnish. I have been saving up this yarn from August when I bought it. I bought it at a crafts fair. It's from a Finnish spinnery called Linkulla Spinneri. It has alpaca wool, sheep wool and silk. When I went through my yarn stash yesterday, I wondered that could I nalbind myself a cowl from this. I was immediately intrigued and picked up a large needle. I don't have a nalbinding needle as I haven't done any nalbinding before, but after this project I think I'll be buying one or making one. Let me show you what I have achieved yesterday. So this is my start of a cowl. It's a Finnish stitch nalbinding technique. It produces this kind of fabric. Similar to crochet, it's a thicker fabric than with knitting, but it's not as dense as a crochet fabric, but more loose and elastic, I guess. In this video, I'll continue making the cowl, and I hope that at the end of this we'll have a functioning scarf for me to wear this winter. I'll be showing you the Finnish stitch technique and how I construct this scarf and talking a bit about the history of nalbinding. Let's nalbind. The oldest nalbinding example we have is from Israel from about 6000 BC. We also have very old nalbinding findings from Denmark, which is pretty close to Finland. So one example of different nalbinding stitches is the Coptic stitch, and it has a very similar look to knitting. There is a very famous artifact of nalbound socks that were made in Egypt in 250 to 420 Anno Domini. It's a beautiful example of what you can do with nalbinding and how different garments were made. These socks, they have one very distinct feature, which is a divided toe, so that the user would have been able to use the socks with sandals. The Vikings used nalbinding a lot. There are many examples of nalbinding in Scandinavia from the Viking era. Besides the Coptic sock, one pretty famous nalbinding artifact is the Coppergate sock, which was found in York, UK. It was dated to about 11th century. It was a pretty interesting find because the stitch technique of the Coppergate sock was different than in any other artifacts that were known, so the stitch was given the name of York stitch by the location of the finding. The Finnish stitch that I am doing, it's done by taking one new strand, then one of the strands that is attached to the loops at your thumb. Then we have 3 loops around our thumb. You take the first one, slip it from the thumb, and here we have the back loops. We take the first of the back loops, which was the last loop that we did. So in knitting terms, the last stitch that we made. And after this you have 4 loops on your needle, and you bring the needle down your thumb and under every yarn on the thumb. You bring the needle down, you pull all of the wool and make another loop at the bottom of your thumb. And that's the finished stitch. It produces this very nice, stretchy, sturdy fabric. Many nalbinding artifacts from Finland are only small pieces of garments, so it's unclear to us that what the original garment would have looked like or what would have been the construction of the original garment. In Finland, it's funny that this technique is called neulakinnastekniikka, which translates to needle mitten technique. So we associate nalbinding with mittens immediately, which is weird in a way because there must have been mittens made with nalbinding, but it must have been used for all kinds of different garments and maybe even other useful textiles. So it's funny that we think of mittens when we see nalbinding. Hi from my living room. I have been nalbinding very eagerly the last couple of days. Yesterday I went to a ceramics studio to try out making ceramics with my friend, and it was really nice. I loved it. And then I came home and pretty much nalbinded for the rest of the evening. This is my progress this far. I have been really enjoying this nalbinding. It's very meditative, for you need to really focus on what you are doing. When knitting, I usually can do pretty much anything at the same time, anything that I don't need my hands to do. With this nalbinding, I'm a complete beginner, so I have to focus all the time. Today I have been also nalbinding. I did some when we were driving to town today, and I think I will continue tonight, and maybe I'll even finish this today and then tomorrow I can try this on. It's been really snowy here, which I love. Winter is my favorite season, so this will come in handy when taking walks in the snow. Maybe we should try this on. Let me take my glasses out. Oh no, I hope this goes over my head. Pretty tight fit. No, it goes well. Let me put my glasses back on. Yeah. Oh, it's fitting really nicely. Yeah. I don't think I need many more rows, maybe a couple of ones so that I can pull the cowl over my mouth, but this looks so nice and it feels very warm. The fabric is thicker than a knit fabric, so it's very warm too. And the size is pretty much perfect, even though it's pretty snug on my head. But let's see if I can get it out of the glasses. But okay. Yeah, yeah, I can get it out just fine, no problem. So I just measured the first strip of nalbinding that I did, and then I measured it around my head that I will get it over my head, and then started this as a spiral. So connected the two ends of the strap and continued nalbinding in a spiral. I was pretty confident that this would fit, but I'm glad it does. We'll do a couple more rows and then we'll be close to finishing. Okay, I have just done the last stitch and I think that we will finish here. So this is the end tail of our yarn and this is the last loop that I did. And what we do now is we tighten these loops by pulling the fabric backwards like this. And finally we pull this end tail like this to secure. Now I'm going to weave in the end tails to the back side of the garment and then we'll be finished. It's done and I am so pleased. It came out perfect. The length is, if I want to, I can pull it over my nose or my mouth, but it fits nicely just under my chin, and also it fits very nicely on my collarbones. Yeah, it's perfect. The whole process was so smooth. I enjoyed learning a new technique and making a new craft, and I'm very happy that I managed to make this cowl because I really needed it. I still have some of the yarn left, so if you have any suggestions that what I should make of this leftover yarn, please leave them down in the comments. Thanks for watching. I am glad that someone might watch these, even though these are mostly for my own enjoyment and for documenting all my crafting endeavors, but I appreciate you all. And now enjoy some clips of me wearing this outside in the snow, and I'll see you next week. Bye!